Hello again, and thank you for clicking on my video. Now, if you've seen my first video, the story of Jake the Egg, you might remember that my name is Alex, and I'm an actor and a writer, and I live here in beautiful Tasmania, an island off Australia. In fact, if you look very closely by the waterfall behind me, you might see some of the prehistoric tree ferns that grow here, and they've been growing here since the time of the dinosaurs. Speaking of dinosaurs, the story you're about to hear is another story from my series set in Dinosaur Dell, a village entirely inhabited by dinosaurs and other prehistoric reptiles. This is story number 3 in the series, and it's the story of Vernon, the vegetarian Velociraptor. Under the volcano, and not too far from the sulphur springs and the pits of tar, in the middle of a forest of tall tree ferns, you'll find some houses where the footpath turns. This is where I live. You can tell from the roars, my neighbours are all dinosaurs. I'm Alex the Alxosaurus. Hello. Now, once upon 70 million years ago... Wait. Which of the stories shall I tell about the dinosaurs living in Dinosaur Dell? The story of Vernon, the vegetarian Velociraptor. Well, the story I'm about to tell doesn't start in Dinosaur Dell, or even in the forest of tall tree ferns, but here in the badlands, where the hot sand burns. And in the badlands, as bad could be, lived the Velociraptor brothers. All their names begin with V. They liked to roughhouse, brawl and fight, to snap and scrap and snarl and bite. They liked to make fun of each other. You'd never do that to your brother. And now I'm off. These nasty 9 are hungry, and it's time to dine. Have you been to many Velociraptor dinner parties? No, of course you wouldn't have. And that's just as well, because Velociraptors are fearsome. They will eat anything and everything, including you, if they could get their claws on you. And their table manners are shocking too. Though that's hardly surprising, because they don't have any tables. They prefer to eat their dinner straight off of the sand. Victor Velociraptor, the oldest brother, who fancied himself as the head chef, called that his sable d'hôte. None of the other Velociraptors understood that joke either, but they thought they'd better laugh, because Victor was the biggest and fiercest, as well as thinking he was the funniest. Look, what am I? I'm a dinosaur. And he laughed with his mouth full, which is very bad manners indeed. 9 disgusting Velociraptors at feeding time in their den. But wait a minute, here's one more. Velociraptor number 10. Now, Velociraptor number 10 was the youngest, and he was called Vernon. Vernon was a very unusual Velociraptor. Unlike his brothers, who were all carnivores, he was a herbivore. He only ate plants. Fruits, vegetables, nuts, mushrooms, leaves, ferns. He was a vegetarian Velociraptor, which all his brothers thought was very strange. They never stopped teasing him about missing their feast at the end of the week, or, as Victor liked to call it, the Friday meet-up. The other velociraptors did get that joke, but they didn't think it was very funny. Nevertheless, they laughed, because Victor was the biggest and fiercest. "Hey, Squirt," Victor called to Vernon. "Why don't you come and join us? I've saved some dinner especially for you." "No, thank you, Victor," said Vernon politely. "You know that I'm a vegetarian." "Well, that's a shame," said Victor, "because that's a huge missed steak." And he guffawed loudly, showering his brothers with the lizard gizzards he'd been guzzling. Not that they minded, though of course they all had to join in laughing at Vernon. But Vernon paid them no attention, because every week, when his 9 brothers would stay in the den and scoff themselves silly on gizzards and gullets and guts and other horrid things with horrid names, he would take himself off for a walk and enjoy some peace and quiet. All the way through the badlands he would walk, and though not much lived there apart from scorpions and snakes, he would always say, "Hello," as he passed them. And often he would come to the edge of the badlands, to the forest of tall, tall tree-ferns, and he would look from afar at Dinosaur Dell and think how nice it would be to live there. But he knew the reputation that velociraptors had, and he was so thoughtful and so considerate that he would never have scared the dinosaurs by walking into the town, even though he ate only vegetables and fruit. Thinking about fruit, his tummy started to rumble. That was another reason he liked the forest. There were plenty of mushrooms and ferns on the forest floor, if you knew where to look, and plenty of juicy fruits on the trees. The dark blue berries of juniper, and the bright red berries of the kahikatea tree, the little green berries of the nagaya bush, the little brown cones of the rimu tree, and plump yellow berries from the ginkgos. He spread the blanket he'd brought with him on a cool mossy bank and picked himself quite a feast of berries. But just as he was about to take the first bite, he noticed a pair of eyes watching him. It was another velociraptor. "Hello," said Vernon, even more politely than he did to the snakes and scorpions. "I'm Vernon." "Hello," said the other velociraptor, and she blushed a little, which isn't easy to do when you have scaly, feathery green skin. "I'm Virginia." "I would ask you to join me, but I'm afraid I'm a vegetarian." "Oh," said Virginia. "Me too." And she came and sat next to Vernon, who offered her the juiciest cycad cone he could find. "That was a delicious meal," said Virginia, when they had finished. "Oh, that was just a picnic," said Vernon. "You must let me prepare a proper vegetarian feast for you one night." "Oh, I'd like that," said Virginia. How about next Friday?" "Oh, that would be lovely, Vernon," said Virginia with a smile. "In fact, I think that's Valentine's Day, isn't it?" "Is it?" said Vernon, and this time it was his turn to blush. The morning of Valentine's Day arrived. The Velociraptor brothers had all invited their girlfriends over for the evening. Vernon had gone out at dawn to collect the ingredients to make a feast for Virginia. "Where have you been, Squirt?" said Victor when he returned, carrying baskets full of berries, mushrooms and roots. "Virginia is coming to dinner," he said, "so I'm going to make her something delicious." "Hey," said Victor, "you better not show us up. Come on, you lot, we better scare up something for our Valentine's Day meet-up." And all the brothers had to laugh, even though they'd heard that joke before. Vernon had only just finished placing a vase of feathery seed ferns on the rock he'd covered with a clean white tablecloth when Virginia arrived. They smiled at each other as the girlfriends of the other 9 brothers arrived and looked enviously at the efforts Vernon had made, since the other velociraptors hadn't even swept the sand. "Chow time!" shouted Victor uncouthly, and all the Velociraptor brothers scrambled to fetch the Valentine dinners they'd whipped up for their girlfriends. Now Vance, the 9th oldest brother, had baked a pie for his girlfriend, Vanessa. As she cut into it, the pie began to rattle. Out poked a tail, then two, then three. She dropped the pie and leapt into the air, shrieking, "Did you not like my snake and kidney pie?" Vance asked her. "I don't think so," laughed Victor. "In fact, I think it made her hysterical." And all the other brothers had to laugh too, even poor Vance. "I'll show you how it's done," said Vivian, the 8th eldest brother, and took the silver cloche off of the dish he was holding for his sweetheart, Vivienne. Underneath was a pile of blue bottles that he'd cooked in garlic. "French flies," he said proudly. "Yuck," said Vivienne. "You mean you don't like them?" "Certainly not," said Vivienne indignantly. "Take them away." "I think she's telling you to buzz off," said Victor, laughing loudly. And of course that meant all the other brothers had to laugh too. "I think you'll find this much tastier," said Valentino, the 7th oldest brother, serving up the dish he'd made for Valerie, his Valentine. "What is it?" she asked, peering at it dubiously. "Well, I thought I'd make something simple and hearty for you. It's baked bones on toast. Bon appetit." "Hey," said Victor crossly. He liked to be the only one to make jokes like that. But Valerie was not impressed. "Oh, that sounds horrible, and that joke wasn't very funny either." "You mean it wasn't that humorous?" said Victor, and laughed far too loudly, until all the other brothers joined in as well, even though they didn't understand why it was funny. And the same happened when Virgil, the 6th oldest brother, dished up his dino s'mores, and when the 5th oldest brother, Vaslav, served up his newt salad, and even when Vikesh, the 4th oldest brother, presented jellyfish and ice cream, and you try finding a jellyfish in the Badlands. One after the other, their girlfriends, Venus, Vonda and Velma, cried, "Ugh, yuck!" and "Ew!" which made Victor laugh even more obnoxiously than usual. He almost fell over laughing when Vladimir, the 3rd oldest brother, served up trilobites for his Valentine, Valda. "I thought they were supposed to be served with fries," she said dismissively. "It looks like they've had their chips," roared Victor. "And so have you, Vladimir." Then the 2nd oldest brother, Vaughan, served up his meal. It appeared to be an impressively large cheese sandwich with a whole alligator inside it. "What on earth is that?" cried Violet, his girlfriend. I call it croque monsieur," he replied. "Well, I don't like it at all," she pouted, turning her nose up. "Take it away at once." "And make it snappy," added Victor, who was now laughing so hard that the tears were running down his face, which was just as well, as it meant he didn't notice that his brothers weren't joining in with the laughter at all now. After he'd laughed for a good 10 minutes, he managed to compose himself. "I'll show you boys how it's done." And he handed his girlfriend, Victoria, a Valentine card. She read it out. "Fresh meat is red, spoiled meat is blue. You're nearly as tasty as my signature stew." And Victor placed before her a huge tureen of stew. "Oh," she said. "What's it made from?" "Stew," he said. "Or I think his full name was Stuart Struthiosaurus." "Oh, yuck!" cried Victoria at the top of her lungs. "What a horrible Valentine's dinner!" And this time, all the brothers laughed at Victor. Well, until all of their Valentines, Vanessa, Vivienne, Valerie, Venus, Vonda, Velma, Valda, Violet and Victoria, who were by now very unimpressed, got up and left. but one remained. The youngest Velociraptor sister, Virginia, was sat with Vernon, who had just given her his own card. Cahicotea berries are red, juniper berries are blue, and all of my best dishes I'll make always for you. And he placed before her a delicious plate of fresh fiddlehead ferns, tender tubers and roasted roots, perfectly prepared palm fronds, and a medley of mushrooms, morels, milk caps, and matsutakes, and bowls brimming with beautiful berries, dark blue juniper berries, bright red cahicotea berries, little green nagea berries, tiny brown rimu cones, and plump yellow ginkgo berries. The other 9 brothers were very crestfallen indeed. "Hey, Squirt, it's unfair," said Victor. "You're the only one with a girlfriend on Valentine's Day."
"Oh," said Virginia, "maybe I can help you boys out there."
And she handed the brothers a bowl from the feast she was sharing with Vernon. "What are these?" said Victor, eyeing the little brown fruits in the bowl.
"Dates,"
said Virginia with a smile, and all of the 8 brothers laughed at Victor. And after that, the brothers were much better behaved, even Victor. Perhaps the dates Virginia gave them to eat had made them sweeter. And even though they could never quite give up eating meat completely, once a week they would have Vegetarian Day and try all the fruits and vegetables and mushrooms and nuts that Vernon and Virginia would cook for them. In fact, they even learned to cook them for themselves and their girlfriends. And there isn't much more to this story of mine, except to say that Vernon and his Valentine, Virginia Velociraptor, would often go to that forest of trees where the best berries grow. And one day, as they picnicked, who wandered by? I can tell you, because it was none other than I. "Velociraptors, help!" I cried. "I'd better run away and hide." But they called out, as I took to my heels, "We only eat vegetarian meals." And that's really how my story ends, as that day I made 2 new friends. And now there is no more to tell about how Vernon and Virginia came to Dinosaur Dell. Now here's a little bit more about my story. Vernon and Virginia eat a lot of delicious fruit and vegetables in my story. You might not have heard of cahicotea and rimu berries, matsutake mushrooms or fiddlehead ferns, but there are plenty of delicious things, apples, strawberries, bananas, olives, peppers, you can use today to make a feast for your friends, or even your Valentine. Snapping apple raptors. You'll need 2 green apples cut into quarters, lots of sunflower seeds, a few strawberries, pomegranate seeds, and your choice of coconut butter, sunflower seed butter, peanut butter, or even tahini. Get a tame grown-up to help you cut the middle out of each apple quarter. Then cover the inside of the gap you've cut with coconut butter, sunflower seed butter, or any other alternative. You might even want to use jam. Put sunflower seeds into the top of the mouth to look like a velociraptor's teeth. Slice a strawberry in half and stick it in the mouth to look like his tongue. Then take whatever you used to fill the mouth, the coconut butter or alternative, and use a small dab to attach 2 pomegranate seeds above the mouth to look like a velociraptor's red eyes. Then eat them up before they eat you. Crocodillas. Unlike Vaughan Velociraptor's croque monsieur, this doesn't contain any real crocodiles or alligators. It's based on a Mexican dish called a quesadilla. You'll need some corn tortillas, a little oil to fry them in, some grated cheese or vegan cheese, some guacamole, some sliced olives, sliced sweet pepper, and chopped up mushrooms. Ask your grown-up to fry a tortilla with a little oil in a frying pan, and then sprinkle your grated cheese, or vegan cheese is just as good, on top. Cover that up with another tortilla, so you have a quesadilla, or a tortilla sandwich. When the cheese is melted and the bottom tortilla is crisp, flip the tortilla sandwich over. Remove the quesadilla from the frying pan, and when it's cool, you can cover it with guacamole until it's crocodile green. Add some sliced olives for his eyes, and a strip of sweet peppers for his mouth. Then add chopped mushrooms to the mouth to make his teeth. Bon appetit. No bones in this one, just bananas. You'll need toothpicks, bananas, baking chocolate, some shredded coconut, and rainbow sprinkles or hundreds and thousands. Cut the bananas into halves or thirds, and stick a toothpick into each bit. Then put them onto a tray lined with baking paper and pop them into the freezer for an hour. Ask your grown-up to melt the chocolate for you. It might be easier in a microwave. Stir it until it's smooth. Dip the frozen banana into the melted chocolate and roll it in the coconut and sprinkles. Pop them back in the freezer for half an hour. And you know, that's how Vernon got Victor to eat bananas. Because he found them more appealing.
Well, thank you for joining me for a story from Dinosaur Dell. I hope that you enjoyed listening to it as much as I enjoyed writing it and telling it. Now, one day I'd obviously like to turn all of my Dinosaur Dell stories into storybooks that anyone can read at home, perhaps using some of the character drawings and photos of Tasmania that you saw on the screen while I was reading the story. I'd love to hear from you, so if you enjoyed the story, or you'd just like to say hello, or even better, tell me who your favourite dinosaur is, please let me know in the comments below, or do visit my website www.alexscottfairley.com, and hopefully I'll see you next time for another story from Dinosaur Dell. Bye for now.